Hey guys, my name is HD95 and here I am with my first ever tutorial video for a Paro approach. So the premise of this is a couple of days back I posted like 3 pictures of me setting a top 20 score on this challenge on Flight Simulator 2020, and a lot of you had liked it and I'm very fortunate for that. Thank you so much. So what I've decided to do is pretty much bet on the same thing and see that you guys want to do the commentary. So here I am doing the Paro approach for you, and the fun thing about this approach is, not besides being dangerous and lots of high terrain, is that it's situated at around about 7,300 feet, which makes it very high density altitude, which essentially means that the engine is not going to be performing as well. So most of these engines get the maximum performance where the air is the densest, that's being sea level, but since we're so high up, the performance is automatically going to be degraded. Now something I like to do, which you might have noticed, is me changing the position of where I'm looking out of the cockpit. So I like to bump up myself using the arrow key, the up arrow key, and then zooming in a little bit. And the first thing I do is or rather the second thing I do, is I completely ignore the bugged speed which they have in the FCU, which is the 160 knots. I prefer to come in at around about 135 knots, because that's typically the approach speed they have for the A320s, even at this altitude, fundamentally the same. Then what you're trying to do is you're going to try and follow this river and try to give you as much width as possible. So you're basically trying to increase your approach length, your final approach, as much as possible. So you've got like that much more time to center the aircraft, concentrate on getting that profile of the approach correctly and whatnot. And the best thing to do is just follow that river in front of you. And what I wouldn't suggest that I do, but I'm doing here, is turning in early, because I've done this a couple of times. It's fairly well versed with how the terrain changes, but I'd suggest you turn in a lot later. Well, not a lot later, just a bit later, so you've got like the runway sighted far earlier than I have, because I'm still turning and I'm going to be seeking out the center line pretty much all the way through. So the benefit I have by not following like the standard approach that most of these Drucker pilots do, which is like following the valley and coming in, is that I'm able to get this center line all the way from the top, but I'll be doing this really weird approach where I'm almost hitting the terrain over here and making a slightly more steeper approach. So you wouldn't be doing that in real life, but for the purpose of setting a good score, that's what you're going to be doing. So remember, pull back your power as you're descending, because you're going to be carrying a lot more speed as you go down. And here we are. I've idled the throttle, just letting it float. Pull back on stick, just gently let it float, let it automatically come down, and touchdown. Again, take your time. The landings are graded on softness, centerline tracking, and essentially how the precision of the touchdown point, like where you actually touch down. So don't rush slowing down the aircraft. That's like the last thing you should be doing. Don't worry about the reverse thrust, man. Nobody's going to charge you extra for using extra fuel. So just concentrate on keeping that aircraft as centered and as smooth as possible. Work on one aspect at a time, and there we go, 1.8 mil, just a little lower than what the score I posted a couple of days back, but close enough, I guess. One more thing to pay attention to is, don't idle the throttle as you're descending. The thing about these engines on these aircrafts is they take time to spool up. So yes, you would have put in the power in, but it'll take a little bit of time for the engine to actually catch up and deliver the performance that you need. So keep it not completely idle, but low idle if you're trying to descend and slow yourself down, because by that you've already spooled up the engines, so there's that gap is not as exaggerated or prominent. So that's pretty much it. If you guys want to check out any more videos, or if you'd like me to do a startup video or a casual landing video in ILS environments and stuff like that, let me know. Another fun fact, these approaches into Paro can only be made in VMC, which is visual meteorological conditions. Basically, you need to be able to see where you're going. There are no instrument procedures for this, except for the instrument let down to actually get you down. But kudos, thank you so much. Let me know what you feel.